Hello and welcome to Hanging by a Thread. My name is Ailsa and this is my little corner of the internet where I talk about all things knitting. And there is now a chill in the air, somewhat. Some days are still quite warm here in Toronto, but it's definitely starting to have that little chill in the air. And of course, like many other knitters, my mind has been turning to fall knitting. I think, like many people, this is one of my favorite times of the year for knitting. We can get back to our woolly wools. We can start thinking about all the exciting sweaters we want to make. It just feels like the perfect knitting season, the time for getting cozy and nestling in. So I'm going to be talking to you about my fall knitting plans today, what I hope to get on my needles, what I hope to be working on. I also wanted to share with you today a little bit about my process of how I go about making my knitting plans. I'm not someone who does really well with very rigid plans. That doesn't tend to be really successful for me, but I do like the process of planning and kind of thinking things through and looking at what my options are, so I kind of have that direction or map or menu. So that's partly how I think about my planning, but I'll go into that in a bit more detail as we go through this. And of course I will be sharing some concrete plans of what I'm going to be casting on in this season. So let's jump right in and get talking about my fall knitting plans. So in order to plan out my knitting, I use an app called Milanote. It is a free app. I'm not in any way affiliated or sponsored with them. I think there probably is a premium option, but I only use the free version. And so I'm going to show you how I use this tool to help me with my planning. It's kind of like a brainstorming tool. You can use it to kind of put things in columns, you can arrange images, you can connect things together with kind of arrows. It's kind of a visual way of thinking through, a project, plans, work. I'm sure it has uses for some people in their work. So it's just a way of kind of visually representing lots of information, and I quite like it. It seems to work for me, so maybe it's interesting to you and it works for you too, or will work for you too. So I'm going to screen record and show you the process I went through as I was planning my seasonal knitting this time round. So you can see here on the screen, the first step I took in my planning was to think about the projects that I have carrying forward. I had one project that I have already completed. That was my Kari top test knit. That's now done. And then I just listed out the other things that I have on the needles right now that I want to kind of clear before I really get stuck into my fall knitting. I think this is important for me because sometimes I overestimate what I'm going to be able to do because I kind of forget about those things that are currently on the needles and what time they might take out of my future plans. So that was helpful for me to go in and categorize what projects I was carrying forward. And I'll just talk through these really briefly with you. So the first project I have, which I'm struggling to bring over, my yarn is all over the place, and I'm working on the sleeve right now, so it's a little bit awkward. But my first project is my stripe pipe. On this one, I have the entire body done, and I've started on the sleeves. So I have the sleeves to knit, and then it will be done. I also have... Sorry, my cat is here. He wants to join in. Let's see if I can show him. Hey, hi, Steve. Hi, Steve. Okay, I think he's settled down now. We'll see. The next whip I still have on the needles right now is a gift knit for a friend who's had a new baby. This is the Snow Globe sweater. It's so tiny. By Hannah Graham. I'm most of the way through the body. I just need a couple of inches or two, and then I'll do the sleeves. But given how tiny this is, I don't think this will take me too much longer. So that's another one that's fairly close to being finished. And then finally, I am working on some socks. These are the Colorwork Club. Oh my goodness. Steve. He really wants to be involved today. Hi, buddy. Hi. These are some socks, the Colorwork Cuff Club socks, the 2024, the volume 1. These are the March socks. I started these when I was on a plane ride. I'm not like, if I don't finish these before my fall season starts, I won't be that mad, but I'm pretty close to doing the toe on the first sock, and then obviously the second sock will need to be done. I mentioned my fall knitting season. The way I know everyone kind of has a different idea of when the fall knitting season starts or when fall starts for them. I'm thinking about this season in terms of from September 21st to December 21st, so kind of within those, the equinox and the solstice is what I'm thinking about it as. I think it's quite reasonable that I'll definitely get the stripe hype and the snow globe sweater done before the 21st. As I'm filming this, it is the 11th, so 20 days. I think that's more than doable and what I'm planning. I could almost certainly get the socks done in that time as well if I put my mind to it, but I don't mind if that whip carries over so much. Having a small sock project is not that troubling to me, I guess, if that carries over. So the next thing that I think about when I was making my plans was, are there any hibernating whips that I'd like to go back to? And you can see here I've put two that are in hibernation right now that I'd like to come back to. The first is the Under the Ivy Cow from Mishi Frez Knits, and the second one is the Simple Thing, and I'm forgetting the designer name, but essentially it's a little Sophie scarf dupe, which I started in the spring. Of these, I'm most interested in bringing back the Under the Ivy Cow, and I debated bringing it out into my concrete plans for that reason, but I'm just not entirely sure when I might fit that in. There's part of me that thinks it's possible I could, once I finish my socks, have that be kind of like my small circumference knitting project, and just bring it in there and then just work on it slowly and steadily for a little while. But I just wasn't sure. I also have a feeling I might need to restart it because I think the tension on it is a little bit wonky. I'm not 100% sure about that one, but I've now got it on my plans, on my list, so that I know that it's something that I might pick up as part of that menu that I'm building for myself. Then I started to think about what my priorities for this season are, and you can see here I've got a few priorities to help me guide my decision making. So the first priority was cardigans. I have been talking about this for so long that cardigans are a priority for me, and I just keep not doing it for whatever reason. Cardigans are a core part of my wardrobe and a core part of my store-bought wardrobe, and I really want more hand-knitted options. The second priority is working from my stash and library. I really don't want to buy any yarn in this season, and ideally I wouldn't be buying many patterns either. I have a lot in my library. I have a lot in stash. In fact, my stash is stressing me out quite a lot at the moment, so I'm really trying to stash down. So that's a big priority, to not be bringing new things in. I'm less concerned about maybe buying a pattern here or there, but the stash is a big one. The next priorities are kind of similar, that I want to focus on color work and texture. I'm not that interested in doing straightforward stockinette projects at the moment. So that's just kind of like a reminder for me that that's what I'm feeling, at least right now. And then my final priority is making a sweater for my daughter, I've been thinking to myself, I'd like to try and make her at least one knitted item per season. She's definitely getting to the age where she just wants me to be making things for her, and I want to honor that and make her things. It's fun to make her things, so I wanted to be on the lookout for something I was going to make for her as well. So from those priorities, my next step that I took was I went into my Ravelry library and I went through all the patterns that I have available to me. And I actually have a very full library. Sometimes it's from things that I've got for free when people were doing promotions, or things I've bought when they've been on discount when they're first released, or when the seller is having a discount. But I do have a lot in my library, which is a nice problem to have, but lots of things to be knit through. But so I went through my library and looked for patterns that would represent or meet the priorities that I had set for myself. And I also, as I was doing this, I thought about which of these projects did I have yarn in stash for. So it was both that they met the kind of brief of either being cardigans or color work or texture, and that I had yarn available to me that I could make it. I did actually, in my notes app on my phone, make a list of which yarns I could use for each of these projects. But I probably should have done that in here, but for various reasons I didn't. But I do have a list of like what possible yarns I could use. I don't have enough yarn to make all of these. I have repeated yarn combinations that, you know, for various different ideas of projects, but they all have yarn that could be used for them if I did want to make them. One cool thing about Milanote is that you can copy images in. So as well as making this list, I did bring over pictures from the pattern pages. So I just have a visual representation of these various patterns that are in my menu. So that I have that visual cue of things I might want to make. So lots of beautiful options there. And so once I've pulled out those pattern ideas, that kind of initial menu of options that I have available to me, I did also just collect a few other patterns and ideas that were on my radar. The first one is the sun ray, which is not in my pattern library, but I do have yarn that I specifically want to use for that pattern. The next one is a pattern that I don't have in my library currently, but I do have plans to make it for my daughter. The big question mark here is gift knitting. When is that going to happen? Is it going to happen? I haven't decided what I'm doing around gift knitting this year, but that's a possibility in here that I want to think about, and whether I want to try and fit some of that in. And then there's a couple of cows that I'm kind of interested in taking part in, but I don't really have concrete plans for, and realistically they're probably not going to happen given the other plans and priorities that I have. But I just wanted to kind of note down that these were happening and I was interested in them, but those are probably very far on the back burner of things I might do. So that was kind of all of the planning I did. And then from there, I reviewed my priorities, I reviewed my list of what I had, my kind of menu, and I started to make some more concrete plans. And that's what you can see as this is kind of spoiler of the projects that I'm going to be working on. These images start to show where I'm making more concrete plans and where I'm more certain about what I might be casting on. So I'm going to come out of this screen recording now and talk you through each of these patterns that have made it on to my more concrete knitting plans list. Okay, so first up on my full knitting plans, I've actually already cast this one on, so it's definitely happening, is the Fidalgo cardigan by Mishi Frez Knits. If you've been here for a while, if you've seen some of my recent videos, you'll know that Michelle is one of my favorite designers. I really love pretty much everything she puts out. So it's no surprise that when I was thinking about cardigans I wanted to make, I turned to the Fidalgo cardigan, which she released earlier this summer. This is a beautiful cardigan in 3x1 broken rib. It's knit up in a heavy DK to worsted weight, and it comes in 12 sizes. So she has available from a 32.5 inch bust to 68.5 inches with a suggested ease of 8.5 inches. So fully size inclusive. And I actually swatched for this in 2 different yarns. So the first one I swatched in actually was this one, which is from Granwy Fibre Co. It is a DK. It's a merino nylon blend. This is from a project that didn't work out last year. I was making a cardigan last year that didn't work out, and it is stunning. Like, I love this color. This color is called Nyx. And it's absolutely beautiful. And to be honest, I was kind of leaning towards this colorway, but unfortunately I don't have enough yarn available to me for this pattern. So I'm not going to be able to make it in this. So I did also swatch at the same time. Before I realized I didn't have enough yarn available, I was curious to see how 2 different yarns would look. And this is the Farmer's Daughter's Fibre Craggy Tweed. I believe the colorway is the Coal Miner's Daughter. This really deep, rich purple with obviously these neps of the tweed. And I do have enough in stash to work with this. This again was a previous project that didn't end up working out. So I can now repurpose that yarn. And I think it's actually going to be really pretty. I was a little bit disappointed that I couldn't make the Granwy work, but I think this will be a really lovely cardigan, and it is a really lovely kind of autumnal color, this like deep purple. So, and there will be some other project that the Granwy will be perfect for, so I'm not worried. So that's my plan for that, and as I said, I have already cast that on. I'm really, really excited about this one. Broken rib is so fun to work. It's just, I don't know, something about it is just very rhythmic, but doesn't get boring in the same way that stockinette does for me. So that's that one. My next plan is one that I'm sure everyone has seen before. It is a very popular pattern, and that is the Book Club Cardigan by Sari Nordland. This kind of took Knitting World by storm when she released it last year. It is a worsted weight all over cabled cardigan. I think she suggests that you hold a sport weight and a lace together in order to get that worsted weight, but you know, you can hold a yarn on its own. So I have knit up a swatch in this lovely brown color. And this wool is Hayfield Bonus Aran with wool. So this is a acrylic wool blend. It's 80% acrylic and 20% wool. But I think it actually looks really lovely in the cable pattern. So I was feeling, you know, excited about how this swatch was looking. I actually haven't measured my gauge on this yet. So I'm not sure if I've hit gauge with this, but we'll see. I'll figure that out. Oh, I should say as well, this cardigan is available in sizes from 37.5 inches at the bust to 69 inches with an intended ease of 8 inches. So again, size inclusive. I have tried to make sure that all of the patterns I'm working on are size inclusive, and in general, that is my philosophy. I prefer not to knit patterns that aren't fully size inclusive. So that's part of my thinking as well. When I'm purchasing patterns, I tend to avoid any patterns that aren't fully size inclusive. That's just a random sidebar, I guess. I am quite intimidated by this pattern. I've never done a fully cabled garment before. The swatch was a little bit hard going. There is a lot going on in here. It's very much you have to concentrate as you're working on it. This is not a mindless knit, but I think I'm up for the challenge. Another thing that kind of intimidates me is, you know, I've seen a lot about people wanting to mod where the cables at the shoulder line up. I've seen people talk about not having enough yarn. I think I should have plenty of yarn for my size, and I don't need to worry about that. But, you know, just like having seen people have some struggles with this also kind of intimidates me. But I do think like a chocolatey brown cabled cardigan is going to be so cozy. And I'm actually really quite excited about this project. I'm not sure when I'm going to have the energy to cast this one on, but it is a project I'm pretty excited about. My next plan is another Sari Nordland pattern, and another really popular one. I guess maybe this is my year of Sari Nordland. I knit the Storsan top not that long ago in the summer, and I have these two patterns on my concrete making plan, so it's just my Sari Nordland season, I guess. So this is the Luma pullover, which is a worsted weight circular yoke colorwork design. It's available in a finished bust circumference of 31.5 inches to 63 inches with an intended ease of 2 to 3 inches. So I am really excited for this one. I really want a colorwork sweater for myself this season, and I want to have it done before winter hits because I think wearing it through the winter is going to be really exciting. I haven't done a swatch for this yet, but I do have some different options. I have a whole bunch of Patterns Classic Wool worsted in my stash, which is 100% wool. It comes in 100-gram balls. It's a really affordable option if that's something you're interested in. But anyway, lovely wool. I mean, I haven't worked with it yet, but it feels lovely in the ball. And I have a bunch of different color options. I'm pretty sure this is going to be my main color, so my background color. Theoretically, I do have enough of this blue that this could be the background color, but I think I'm probably going to go for this as the main color, and then I just have to decide what color I want to go with it. And maybe you all have some ideas here because I'm really torn. So I have this blue. I can see that being very pretty. Definitely a vibe there. I have this reddy, almost burgundy color. This says on the label, I don't have labels for all of these. A whole bunch of this I picked up in some DD stashing, so I don't necessarily have labels. So this is Plum Heather, which is this kind of deep red burgundy. I really like this combination. I do think it looks really pretty. My fear is that it's going to look too much like a holiday sweater if I do kind of like this red and white together, and that's not what I'm going for. So that's where I'm kind of not sure about this combination. And then I have this kind of like more charcoaly gray as well. And this is probably what I'm leaning towards because I think this would match a lot of the vibe of the original sample, that kind of quite graphic, high contrast. It wouldn't look too holiday-ish. It would just look more graphic. So I'm leaning towards this. There's something about this that I really like. I think probably the blue I'm less drawn to. So probably my order of preference is this, and then this. But I could be convinced. Let me know what you think. What would you do? Yeah, so I just need to kind of figure that out, and maybe I'll do some swatching to see what I think when I try the different colors with that main color. So yeah, that's that one. And then I have one accessory on my concrete plans list, and that is the Through Lines scarf by Andrea Mowry. This is a fingering to sport weight scarf, one size. It's slip stitch mosaic knitting to get that kind of blend of different colors. And I was really drawn to this design when I saw it. I'm really drawn to a lot of Andrea Mowry's designs, and I actually have quite a few of her patterns in my library. And I've attempted one, but that was a long time ago, and it was an all-over cable cardigan. But I've never actually knit any of her patterns. Oh wait, no, I did knit her oxbow socks. So there you go. I've like knit 2 of her patterns, or I've at least attempted to. But anyway, I want to kind of work through some of my pattern stash of Andrea Mowry designs, because I do think she makes beautiful designs. I had in my stash this yarn from Spin Cycle, which is recommended in her pattern. She's a big user of Spin Cycle. I picked this up in a local yarn store's sale where they were doing 25% off, and I was like, oh, I want to try the fun yarn, but then I didn't have a plan for it. And like, what am I going to do with one ball of this color changing yarn? I was really not sure. But this pattern uses less than a ball of the Spin Cycle. And then it also calls for Brooklyn Tweed. Now, obviously Brooklyn Tweed has announced that they're not doing their yarn production anymore. And I was like, I had that feeling of FOMO and missing out on, like, again, the cool thing. So I did get some loft in a D-stash so that I could play with it and just like experience it before it goes away forever. So this is a Tahi Columbia wool. It's a woolen spun, so it's very lofty, and the pattern calls for you to have 2 colors, 2 kind of contrasting colors. So I have here Soot and Snowbound, this kind of like lighter, heathery gray. So we've got this darker gray, this lighter gray, and then held with the color changing yarn. So hopefully that's going to be really pretty. I'm excited for that one, actually, to try the pattern, to do an accessory. I tend not to do that many accessories, so to get an accessory and just to see how it comes out. So that's that plan. And then my final of the concrete plans is that sweater for my daughter. So this one I don't have in my pattern library yet, but as I said, I'm not so adverse to buying patterns if I need to here or there. But I did want to be able to use what was in stash, and I do think I have enough stash yarns that I can make this work. So this is the Dinosaur sweater by Peniel Larson of Knitting for Olive. It's a worsted weight pattern with a dinosaur on it. My daughter loves dinosaurs, so she's very excited by the idea of this. And this is an intarsia design, which I've done an intarsia once before, a long time ago, like back in 2014. I made a little panda toy for a friend who was having a baby, and I was not I did not know what I was doing. I couldn't really make it work. I don't think I had the wherewithal to find a YouTube tutorial back then. I don't know. Anyway, it was not a positive experience, and I've kind of avoided intarsia since then, but I think I'm ready to dip my toes in and give it another try. So for that, I have more of this Hayfield Bonus Aran. This is just kind of a cream colorway. It comes in these giant 400 gram balls, by the way, which again, this is a very cost-effective yarn. Again, it is an acrylic wool blend, but I had this giant ball of this, and then I have various worsted weight scraps that I think I can use for the body of the dinosaur. So I think this is these are really old scraps. I'm not even sure where they're from. I think this is some Barocco vintage. I have a feeling that this messy ball might be from Lichen and Lace, but a million years ago. This green is, I believe, from Knit Picks. It's the Bravo worsted. And then I have some more. This is Barocco vintage, which I thought could be accent colors on the dinosaur. So I have various greens and that orange that I think I can make the dinosaur out of. And then I'm sure I have some white for the teeth, and, you know, I can make that work. But I think I've got what I need here in order to get that all out of stash, so, and scraps as well, which is fun. So that is my final of the plans. I think that will be a fun one and a skill extender, so I'm looking forward to that one too. I think when I look at these plans, I recognize that they're fully ambitious. I think if I manage to finish 2 sweaters for myself and 1 for my daughter, and maybe the cow, like the scarf, that would be actually quite a lot. But you never know, and it's nice to have options, and I'm not holding myself rigidly to these plans. If I suddenly decide, oh, actually, I really want to cast on this thing that I have in my pattern library and I have stash for, that's why I still have that menu in my project planning, so I can kind of reassess as I go on. I can keep following my interest while staying true to my priorities. That's kind of what I was thinking with my planning process this time around. So yeah, I'm not committing myself fully to these, but I'm excited to have ideas and inspiration for my knitting going forward. So that's what's on my plans. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you liked seeing this glimpse into what might be coming for me. I'd love to know what you're knitting on at the moment, what your plans are for the coming season. Let me know. And otherwise, I will see you next time. Take care and happy knitting. Bye, everyone.